Hey, welcome to the podcast today. So glad that you are here. Today is going to be a different kind of podcast. I'm actually going to read you a story so you can kind of settle in and just have a nice little story. It's actually a story. It's from a book that I used to read my kids when they're little. And the reason why I picked this out and why this story, I just love this book so much, and it comes back to me over and over again. But I picked this particular book and story when I was thinking about you all because there are studies that have found what the traits are of unsuccessful relationships, like what those hallmark things are. And this little story, this little parable within the story, I'm actually not going to read you the whole story, just a piece of it. It is one of these pinnacle things. It's one of these traits that has been found to really destroy relationships. And it's really important that we know what these traits are of unsuccessful relationships so you can be on the lookout within your own relationship. There are ways that we just habit into these things little by little until it just really becomes a big problem. So, and this is in those traits, the traits of unsuccessful relationships and the traits of successful relationships, because you want to look for your successes too, is over in my free course, the free mini course called Spark Up Your Love. And I just wanted to invite you into that course today to be able to go and see what those traits are and to spend some time in it. Because man, every time I review those traits, right, every time I look at them again and I look with curiosity into my own relationship and say, oh, right, I have leaned into those negative ones a little bit and I haven't spent enough time tending those positive ones. So it's very useful to see those things. But let's go into this little story because I think you'll love it. And you'll be like, oh yeah, I know what she's talking about. This parable, it's actually a parable within this book. The book is called Zen Shorts by John Muth. And it's this delightful, beautiful children's book. It even has, has some sort of award on the cover, a sticker of some award that it's won. But there's this, the main character of the story is this big, lovable, soft, gentle panda bear. And then his little neighbor friends, these three kids that go over and meet with him, and they get the wisdom from, his name is Stillwater. So Addie and Michael and Carl, they get to meet Stillwater. Stillwater's this beautiful Zen panda who brings them these little stories to help them with their life. So the particular one today that I thought is just so poignant and so useful to remember over and over again. And it's so easy in our lives to get caught up in this. And the parable's name is called A Heavy Load. I'm just going to read it to you because it's just delight. It's just a delightful little story within this Zen Shorts book. So 2 traveling monks reached a town where there was a young woman waiting to step out of her sedan chair. The rains had made deep puddles, and she couldn't step across without spoiling her silken robes. She stood there, looking very cross and impatient. She was scolding her attendants. They had nowhere to place the packages they held for her, so they couldn't help her across the puddle. The younger monk noticed the woman, said nothing, and walked by. The older monk quickly picked her up, put her on his back, transported her across the water, and put her down on the other side. She didn't thank the older monk. She just shoved him out of the way as they departed. As they continued on their way, the young monk was brooding and preoccupied. After several hours, unable to hold his silence, he spoke out. That woman back there was very selfish and rude, but you picked her up and you put her on her back and you carried her. And then she didn't even thank you." And the other monk says, "I set the woman down hours ago," replied the older monk. "Why are you still carrying her?" Do you ever do this? Do you ever find that you are carrying the woes of the life, the hard work that you put in, the thankless tasks, the things that are left undone by your partner, right? There's lots of things that happen like this in our relationships. There are lots of times that we carry a heavy load and are never thanked for it. And we build up this sense of resentment or contentment or defensiveness, that we become critical of our partners or even of ourselves. It goes both directions. But this is one of the things that when we stew on it, when we hold on it, when we don't resolve it in the moment, it just really makes our relationships fall apart. All the pain and suffering that this younger monk was in, and for all this time, for hours and hours, and the older monk had just let it go. He had decided to just carry her and put her down and let her go. We want to be very careful with the things in our lives that we decide to hold on to and why. How to actually move ourselves through these things. This is what good coaching helps us do, to take these things that we're holding on to be able to release them, and not release them without responsibility around them, but to release them so they're not weighing us down and we can start to take action on them. Some of the things we just need to, like the woman in the sedan, just set aside and move on. And some things we need to figure out how to come back to our partners and have conversations about them. But coming to our partner and having a conversation that's effective in moving it forward, instead of coming in carrying that big, heavy load. We want to take care of you, take care of that load so that you can come in a clean and open and loving and beautiful way that's actually going to help you and your partner move forward. All right, a shorty today. I hope you enjoyed that little story. I love this book. If you've got young children, or honestly, it still sits on my shelf. I don't have young children anymore, but children's books, some of them are just those huggers, that they're so beautiful in their artistry and so beautiful in their stories. They're worth hanging on to. The Grown-Up Child. Zen Shorts, John Muth. All right. Take care, my friends. Be committed, be present, show up with curiosity and love for yourself, and for your spouse. I love you so much, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you can get every episode. And when you are ready to be in action, come find us. Facebook, Instagram, or our website. It's all the same name, relationshipsonfire.com. We've got that S on there. There's lots of us having relationships. So relationships with an S, onfire.com. Thanks so much. Saying goodbye, your fire and water gal, Cori Myka. See you next time.